Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a special episode. I have on David Reich, who is a confirmed author in one of our upcoming Mission Matters books. He is a business leader, and I will tell you, David, you have the record, the very first professional magician I brought on the show, over 5,000 interviews. Thrilled to have you here, man.
Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, David. So I definitely want to go into your background and also your business. But before we get into all of that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So, David, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. David, what mission matters to you?
My mission, I've actually worked on this quite a lot. I sum it up in 3 words: entertainment, education, and enlightenment. People say, okay, now what the heck does that mean? So, like you said, I'm a business professional. That's what pays the bills. That's what I've been doing my career. But as on the side, and ever since I was a little kid, I was a professional magician as well. And what that's done is given me a very unique perspective on a lot of things, the lens of a performer with the experience and everything of a business professional, and looking at things differently. And what I've made my mission is not just be successful in business, deliver products and increase sales and revenue and stuff like that, but I'm a geek who loves people. Yeah. And to me, it's entertaining people. That's the magician part of me. I love making people smile. I'm a jokester. Entertainment, education. I want people to learn and get a message out of the things that I'm showing them, and the things where I'm performing or telling a joke, doing a magic trick, a mentalism trick, some stage hypnosis. I want people to have that V8 moment, if you will. So that's the entertainment, education, and enlightenment. And I want people to come away with, whether I do a show, just to do an entertainment show where I get engaged and do, some recognition event. I want people to walk away with more than just some laughter and how the heck did he do it? And likewise, if I'm engaged to do sales education, executive leadership training, team building, things like that, I want people to come away remembering that way more than, oh yeah, this is just another class that the company sent me through. So that's my mission, is entertain people, educate them, and have them walk away with that enlightenment. And ultimately, just to finish this up, when I run into people, or people will send me emails or messages later on and say, you said something that stuck with me. This helped, this changed me. That to me is that. I love the laughter. I love the thank you for all the great information. But those things, when I know that I've actually impacted somebody, that's my mission. That's really what I love to do.
Amazing. And it's great to have you on. And I'm excited to get into the book and also talk about, your contribution. But first, I find that many people, so I feel like there's this continuum of things we want to do. So when we're kids, maybe we have this idea or something else we want to do. Then little by little, we get put into, whether it's, by ourselves, by society, not going down that route in terms of the argument, but one way or another, maybe we give up some of those things that we early on wanted to do. To me, I find it so interesting that you maintained being a magician and also, practicing your craft, as it's turned into your adult life, and you've added to it. You've gotten better. And our conversations offline about like just the joy it's brought to yourself, obvious as well, like personally, not just professionally. Like, how did you keep the magic? Like, what was your secret?
I started when I was 12. I was lucky enough. I grew up in New York City, and the quote unquote Mecca of magic was this shop on the 17th floor of an office building in Times Square. And you had to know it was there. And I was really jazzed about doing some card tricks, bought some books. And in fact, I bought a specially set of 3 printed cards, which I still have to this day. And just a couple of things that I was doing. I was playing around with my friends. I did some birthday parties. And I was actually making good money doing birthday parties. But back then, and I won't say how old I am, But if I had told my dad, "Hey, Dad, I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a professional magician," he would have said, "Yeah, we're going to lock you in the room until that idea comes out of your head." But it was just a lot of fun to play with my friends. And one of my best friends, he was also into it as well. And we were learning card tricks and coin tricks and playing around. And it was really just, it just stayed while I followed the traditional path. It just kind of stayed with me to just play around with some friends. And I always have a deck of cards or some coins around. And if I felt like it, I'd take something out. And it was just, the passion, the mission, if you will, but the passion of me was I've always been a class clown. All right. I've always tried to make somebody laugh. My teachers in school, they loved me and they hated me. They loved me because I was a very good student. They hated me because, David, not everybody can learn the way you can without paying attention. So just, it's funny, but stop, please. So we were doing things where, for example, I took the bus when I was in elementary, middle school. And once we took the bus, everybody gathered in the gym and you were all gathered in your little classroom areas before you went into your classrooms and start. So I would take out a deck of cards and I'm just playing with the cards with my friends. And I kept doing things like that to try and keep it out of the classroom, to not get the teachers too angry at me. But it just, everything was just a lot of fun. And I enjoyed making people smile, and people would say, "Hey, Dave, show us this. Hey, Dave, show us that." And, it's one of those kid things, as opposed to, I was okay in sports, but I was never the best guy in the sport. This was my thing. And I just kind of kept it going. When I got into college, I started doing, a little more involved things. I got involved in the school radio station. So I was a DJ. And I started really thinking about myself as a communicator. A DJ, we have to do things with an audience, and there's no audience. There's a glass window and nothing on the other side. So how do you talk to people who aren't there? And I started thinking about the communications aspects. And then I started doing, some of the charity work in the school, and they, doing these shows. And guess what? I did magic. So I started doing some of those things, and it just stayed with me as a passion and a hobby. And I was watching the performers on television, the David Copperfield specials and so on. It was just a lot of fun. And then as I moved into, my real life, well, I started realizing I could use a lot of those communications concepts in my business meetings, in my interviews, and how to be a better interviewee and an interviewer, and how to think about what motivates people, because that's where the magic comes into play. And what winds up happening is the things just start to merge, because magic, look, I'll give you the secret. There's no such thing as magic. All right. It's all psychology. It's all perception. And what you're trying to do is you're actually a master communicator. And I was developing my communication skills. That's what helped me be a better business person. And doing the business side helped me as a magician and a mystery performer, as it were, because I'm looking at the different types of people and how different types of people think. So quick story. I was at a magic convention. Don't remember when it was. It was in Daytona Beach. And there's a guy, well-known professional magician. He's more of a magician. He performs a lot, but he's not one of these people you're going to recognize his name because he was on, some special. But in the magician community, he's very well known, and he's written a lot. And one time I was talking to him, and I was asking him how to deal with the hecklers. People say, "I know how he did that. Oh no, he took this card." We do that all the time. And there's different ways to handle that stuff. And this guy, Jay, he's a stand-up comic. That's how he got started. And then he started magic. So what does he do? He rips on people. And I said, I can't do that. I'm in a business setting. I'm in a business meeting. I can't start insulting the people I want to buy my product. And he gave me a couple of tips on how to flip the narrative around. So rather than, I mean, look, when you're dealing in sales, and this is what I do with sales training and so on, people talk about overcoming objectives. And yeah, but think about buying a car. Yes, but I don't know if I'm ready to spend this much money, but I wasn't prepared to buy that. I wasn't prepared to sign it today, and all the different objections. So how do you flip the narrative? That goes back to the magical performance and bringing that into the business setting. So as I was growing through the years, I was maturing in my communication skills as well. And that's also what kept it going, because I just had this fascination for how people process information. Yeah. Because again, that's what we're trying to do as a magician. I'm doing something over here, but I want you to be looking over here, right? That's a simple way of doing it. I say something in a particular way because I want you to feel a certain way. I want you to think a certain thing. And flipping the narrative, so I don't have to insult my audience if somebody says, I see what you're doing. Hey, everybody look over here. Look what he's doing. So how do you flip that? That's how this thing just sort of steamrollered into doing both and getting better at both, greater than each one by itself.
Yeah. And I see that, by the way, and I think it's pretty genius the way that you were able to connect, a skill and something that you enjoyed and had fun with, from your early childhood years into adulthood, and now make it a professional part of your career as well, and really to link, and your coined term, I should say, and I want you to go into what it means, but you're known as the observationist. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So the observationist, that's kind of interesting. It's a word I'd like to think I made up. It's not in any dictionary. What I was doing was I was trying to figure out where I can take this and how I can encapsulate something. And again, part of this is the psychology. Let's turn back the clock just a little bit from here. A couple of years, I started coaching about 10 years ago, TED Talk speakers, because I'm a professional magician. I'm a professional communicator. So teaching people, speaking skills, when to use slides, when not to use slides, how to use slides, and also how to codify and clarify their message, which is, we don't do that nearly well enough. People don't clarify their message. And what I wound up doing was looking at a lot of TED Talks. People had different titles, okay? And one that always got me was futurist. And I said, how can I label myself in a way that's descriptive, intriguing, yet not confusing? And the other thing was, I was trying to balance my business with magic, mentalism, and hypnosis, which I do all of these things in different venues and different types of performances, lectures, and so on. And I didn't want to be called a magician. It's got a connotation. Don't be called a mentalist. What the heck's a mentalist? Nobody really knows. Magic circles, we know. Hypnotist, I don't want people thinking I'm going to make them bark like a dog and just run around the floor.
Yeah.
So what I thought about is, who am I as a person? And just like the evolution I experienced, one of the things I took a lot from, believe it or not, is George Carlin. Okay, comedian George Carlin. He had a wonderful way of getting people to observe things through his words and look at things in a totally different way.
He did.
So I said, well, I love George Carlin. I love the wow, I never thought about it that way. Yeah. And people think about that. And I wanted people to see things that are right in front of their eyes that they're missing, because we go through life in patterns. In fact, that was the entire basis of my TEDx talk that I did, it was like 5 or 6 years ago. And by the way, if you take a look at my website, there's a link to my, over there. There's a link to my TEDx talk there. So, but the idea was, I wanted people to see things. I wanted people to see things that are right in front of them, take them out of their patterns to their benefit, so they can see more, be better communicators, both in communicating and being the communicated to. So by getting people to see more of that, and I just said, what can I do as far as, a label for myself? So that's how observationist came about. And that's what I started doing. So when I did my TEDx talk, I said, David Reich, observationist.
Yeah.
And what does observationist mean? So it's also a conversation starter, which, by the way, is one of these techniques about how a mentalist will pull information out from people. Is you want to say things that inform, give them enough, but also lead them and make them question things. So now they're asking you questions. And that is where some of the techniques of a mentalist or a magician and a business person go like this, where I want to give people all the information, but I also don't want to drone on for 30 minutes about the product I'm trying to sell you. I want to tell you some things about what it's going to do for you. And then I want you to start asking me questions. And then by doing that, all right, again, going back to, looking from the lens of a performer, I want to know something about my audience. And again, as the observationist, and again, sorry, yet another plug for the TED Talk. That's exactly what I do. And I do a demonstration of that in the TED Talk. By looking at people, I can see how they're dressed, how they carry themselves, whether they smile, are their eyes darting around, are they sitting with their arms crossed, all the, simple body language, and also more the subtle things, because they'll ask me something, I'll say something, I'll watch their face as they're answering me. I'll ask them something else. I'll watch their eyes as they're answering me, as they're asking me something else. And by doing that, I am building a rapport with the person. So now they're going to hopefully trust me a little bit more. They'll give me a little more information, hopefully more information than they intended to, if I'm trying to do a performance with them. And then I can use all of that to my advantage. Now, not to sound Machiavellian, okay, but that's what we're trying to do.
You're allowed.
Well, I don't want people to think I'm doing it for dastardly reasons.
No.
That's how we more effectively communicate, by subtly in your brain, what is their motivation? Why are they listening to me? Why should they be listening to me? And that's where I start going into this in the book chapter, is where, why should people be listening to me? Why are they listening to me in the first place? Why am I talking to them? What is motivating them? And then I can use that, not to manipulate, okay? But hey, in terms of magic performance, absolutely manipulate for entertainment purposes only. But when it comes to the things in business and so on, that's where you can be a more effective communicator. Because another thing I do is I have a lot of friends who are a lot younger than me, and they're applying for jobs, or even some of my friends who are older. They don't know how to interview. And what I said was, you're a salesperson. They said, no, I'm not. I'm a computer person. I'm a computer programmer. I said, no, you're a salesperson. Right now, you're in an interview. You're selling yourself. And you might have exactly what they need. But if you don't say it the way they need to hear it, it doesn't matter. So what you have to do is do some homework on the person. Look at their LinkedIn. Find out a little bit more about them. Find some things about them, and maybe in their past that maybe there's something in common. Maybe you're from the same state or something, whatever it happens to be. And also, if you look, for example, at their job history, you can see, did they start off from a business perspective and sales and climb the ranks from there? Or did they start like you as a technologist? So you can talk to them a little bit more like a technologist. And you're not changing what you have or what you're trying to sell them. You're just changing how you communicate it. So you can be a much more effective communicator. And that, again, is where, when I do a lot of these lectures and classes and so on, this is where that lens of a performer with the experience of a business professional, where I got to merge these things. So that's how the observationist came into play, because it's looking at everybody. It's looking at them and who you're communicating to. It's knowing, observing how what you're saying is landing. All right. If you're doing something and people's eyes are glazed over, you better change, or they're going to walk out of the room. Right. So that's how that kind of came about.
So David, we're for everybody watching this or listening to this, just so you know, we will be bringing David on for a second part. So this is part one of a 2-part interview series we're doing with David. On part 2, we'll do that when the book is actually live and out and in our possession. Why? Because we do sell books too, right? We're a publishing company, so we want you to pick up a copy. But David, we're going to keep it high level today. I know you gave us a little bit of a teaser, but I want a little bit more because I want people to tune back in. Definitely want them to subscribe because you'll be coming back on for that second part and that second interview. But high level, David, what are some of the things you hope to propose in the upcoming book? And I'm not holding you to this. I know we're in editing still and the content will change a little bit, but what do you plan to propose?
Essentially, it's really that observation direction of all of the different facets about human communication and how we can not only bridge the human communication, but also how to follow your passion where events, other things may take you in a different direction. So let's turn back the clock a little bit to what I said a few minutes ago, where I followed the traditional path. Okay, go to school, get a job. Right. A lot of my friends have, been focusing on becoming professional magicians and, or professional entertainers. And, look, back when I was a little boy, that was a much more avant-garde kind of thing. Not a lot of people were doing it. Everybody said, go to school, get a job.
Yeah.
But I never lost that passion for people and doing the magic and having fun. And one of the things, again, this is part of my mission, is, I'm well along in my career. I've had tons of business successes in a whole number of places, but I never gave up that passion. And by keeping that in the forefront and not just relegating it to the bunch of magic books on my shelf and a bunch of tricks and props in the closet, how can you continue to merge what you're doing and, quite frankly, what pays the bills with the things that might not pay the bills as well, but it's your passion, and maybe even figure out ways to put those things together and make them play off each other and build on themselves. And that's what I want to focus on in the book. So it's not just the tools that I was talking about, but, just how to look at life. And one of the things, and we mentioned this briefly just before we went live on the air, is, and in fact, I'll relate a recent story. I was with some folks on the other side of the country, and one of the folks, I became really good friends with this guy, and he said, how do you meet all these people? How do you do this? How do you wind up with these people in these situations and getting invited to these things? And I said, it's simple. I said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Right? Because it's like, oh, you're so lucky. Now, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And this also goes into, some of that mindset and goes back to a bit of the observation, because if you're always open to these ideas and looking around and not just going through your life in patterns, then what's going to happen is your subconscious is going to keep working on these things. And when something that might ordinarily just blow right past you shows up, your brain's going to go ding, and a light bulb's going to go off. And you're just going to be, wait a second, let me try this. Right. Yeah. And again, that's another lens of a performer thing. Nothing's 100% when you do a magic show or a show.
All right. Speaking of that, David, I'm gonna cut. That's enough on the book. I'm gonna cut you off there. Like I said, we sell books for publishers here, so we're gonna cut you off there. If people want more, come back for the next interview. Number 1 and number 2, pick up a copy when we have one. But I do have you. You're talking. Speaking of the performance side, this is just random. I go to the Magic Castle pretty often, and I always wonder, like, how do you choose what trick you're gonna do or what you're gonna do in your performance?
So, again, very situationally dependent. Sure. What happens is I'm thinking about who the audience might be and what kind of things would they want to see.
Hmm.
So for example, I just spent a bunch of time down in Key West, Florida,
Hmm.
and there was no way I was getting on a stage there. I thought about it, and okay, and I wound up doing performances, actually a magic bar in Key West.
Hmm.
And now I generally don't do quote unquote bar magic, which is a lot of cards and coins, fast hitting, people in various stages of inebriation. A lot of times, let's face it, it's called a magic bar. All right. And it's not something that I would do in the corporate environment. But at the same time, it was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot about myself in doing that stuff. So I started doing a lot more cards and coins as I started. And I said, I haven't done this set of card tricks in a long time.
Wow.
And I started pulling them out. Now, at the same time, if I'm doing a corporate thing, all right, is it a sales team? Is it a recognition event? What kind of people are there? And I like to tell people, I generally don't do the same show twice ever.
Wow.
Because I'm trying to figure out, again, why are they there? Why were they invited to this event? Is it a ticketed show? What is the message that the sponsor wants to get across? And that's how I pick certain things. But one of the things that I've started to do, which is really hard as a magician, anybody who's studied magic at all will tell you, you always just want to keep doing more and more cool stuff.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't relate, then it's going to fall flat. So a lot of the things I do have to fall into some sort of a scope of what the point of that show is. So if I'm doing a show all about observation, I'm going to do everything I do. It's not just going to be bang in your face. There's a lot of magicians. One of my best friends, I mean, he's like, hit him again before they can breathe, hit him again. And they're laughing. But that's not what I'm doing in an observation show. Right? That might be like more of a bar magic or more of a wedding or something like that. You do something like that. In more of a corporate show, I want to do something, and I will pick an effect where it's a multi-phase kind of thing, just like in a sales situation where you want to, unfold what you're trying to get them to. I unfold where I want the audience to go. So by the time I'm done, they say, that's really cool. I saw something, but wait a minute. How the heck did you know what number I was thinking of?
Yeah.
And it's those kinds of things that get them saying, but wait, we know this, but how did we get here? We don't know. All right. Or some of the other effects are purely verbal effects where I will perform something and then I will tell them exactly what I did. Because I want them to look back and say, he didn't really do that. And then a couple of people say, yeah, he did. Think about this for a second. And that's part of that enlightenment thing. So how I pick what I do on stage is really very dependent on the message and mission that I'm trying to accomplish with that particular audience for that particular event.
Yeah.
So
that's great. Well, and now I have some more context here. I don't think I'm going to give up being behind the mic because I don't know, but maybe when we meet in person one day, you'll teach me a trick or two with something, a little beginner.
I would be happy to.
All right. Well, David, first off, it has been great having you on the show today. I really enjoyed our time together. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about how to, keep some things that maybe like keep them going. Like it's possible to meld and merge things that are, that make you happy and that you want to do and perform and otherwise, and things that pay the bills. Like you've lived a great life in doing this.
It's not an either or, and way too many people think about it like that. And that's, again, the observation, looking at things a little bit differently. It doesn't have to be a choice. You can figure something out, even if it doesn't seem to, I mean, business and technology guy and a magician, and you're doing this how? It took a while. It took a long time for me to do that. Figure that out. But
it's awesome.
Keep working on it.
So David, I just have to ask, I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for the observationist?
What's next is doing a lot more shows, performances. I've been working on a number of packaged courses that I'm going to be offering, everything from being a technology leader and how to talk about those things, how to present those things and unfold ideas, and again, using that lens of the performer, sales education. Okay. Because again, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to sell you that I can do the impossible. Okay.
Yes.
And how do you get people to unfold those things, and how you can use some of the techniques that I'm using to, to accomplish those things. So I'm working on some package courses. I'm working on the book, of course, that we're working on. We need to get that all wrapped up. And in addition, I'm also working on, and I'm still working on the delivery mechanism. Don't know what it's going to be, but a series of bite-sized videos, no more than 5 to 7 minutes, that I want to release. I'm not sure on the schedule. Probably dailies are going to be way too much. Weekly, certainly weekly. No less frequent than weekly, but just bites, just small bites of what we've been doing. Because, like we've been talking about, I can go on. This is my passion. This is my love, and I've done things, where I have these discussions with executive teams about this for an hour or two, and then they bring me in and do these programs. So, so I'm working on packaging up what I'm doing more than just bespoke, individualized shows. I'm still going to do those, but now I want to package some of those up, some of the book stuff, and also this series of bites that I'm going to release. I'm not sure what the venue is going to be. It'll certainly be publicly available online, but those are some of the things I'm working on.
And if somebody is watching this or listening to this and they want to follow up and connect with you, or to digest your content and to, check out that TEDx, I mean, what's the best way for people to do it?
Best way is probably the URL that's sitting up on the screen under my head there. Go to davidreich.com, and there's an email link in there. There's a form. And again, just real quick, this is another thing that I put in my contact form. It simply says, "What's on your mind?" So if there's one takeaway, always ask people open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Don't say consultation. Just ask an open-ended question. Say, "You want to contact me? Cool. What's up?"
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we'll put all that information in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the links and head right on over and check out your content. And I'm excited to see this new content that you're going to be creating as well. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters, or engaging in our platform, or listening to an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, and experts, and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, like what motivates them, what gets them excited to get out of bed in the morning and to go out into the marketplace and really into the world and make a difference. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And David, really, it has been a pleasure. Until the next time, man, can't wait till we get to work with each other again. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for watching.